Remember, we had COVID. Before COVID, this was an annual event. We were organizing. I can assure you that we were even planning to organize one when COVID struck. It will be out of place to say that the kind of indoor meeting that involves everybody talking and a lot of conversations and dialogue to take place within that space. Trust me that now that the World Health Organization has said that COVID-19 is no longer a public health emergency, the strategy may now change from direct broadcast by the president in engaging Ghanaians and other strategies we have used for communication within the highest office may change. So please, we cannot have that conversation without taking out the circumstances that led to the abrupt stop in the strategy of bringing the media to the banquet hall at the Jubilee House and organizing such engagements. Lastly, the Ministry of Information and stakeholders are seriously working on the broadcasting bill. I believe Sule is in the know that there was a draft. We had taken the draft to consultants to look at it, even the Attorney General to look at it. We invited comments from 15 stakeholders. A few of them brought their comments and made their inputs. Right. It has been sent back to consultants. We have been working very hard, at least since 2021, to the best of my knowledge, to get it to a stage where we are able to harmonize the regulatory framework, especially between NCA and NMC, and also to cover some of the gray areas that cause the problems that we have within the information sector. So it is not as if nothing is being done. All the stakeholders know that some work is being done.
Thank you very much. Fatima Abubakar is the Honorable Deputy Minister for Information. Thank you. We will take a break, return to look at questions on the National Cathedral. And I still have Samuel Okudieto-Ablakwa with me, Suleiman Abrahima, and we are joined by Dr. Paul Opoku-Mensah, Executive Director of the National Cathedral Project. We'll be right back.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
Pascal's showing his boss the efficient new technology they've installed. She is pleased, but now she's asking, why is that still there? Pascal explains that the wells can store many, many messages. The boss is not so pleased anymore. If you haven't upgraded your contact center yet, it's time to get business done better with MTN Business.
Hello and welcome to OMV & Sons Company Limited. We are the sole importers and distributors of Puncture Save tie sealant. Puncture Save is a product that you put in a car tire to prevent punctures from occurring. What it basically does is that you put them in your car tire through the valves so that anytime anything pierces the tire, instead of air coming out to deflate the tires, puncture seal will come out automatically to seal the tires without even you noticing. Now this product is 95% organic and then it is water-based. Now this is the green, going for extra heavy duty trucks. Wine, that is for heavy duty trucks. We have the blue here for high speed, the motorbikes, the saloon cars, the SUVs. We are located at Kokumlemle, directly opposite Joy FM. You can contact us on 0595756449. You can also contact us on 0302 246 550.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. It's brought to you by Bank of Africa, MTN, Ashesi University, Robert and Sons Optical Services, My Way Insurance, Duraplus, DBS Industries, and Rehoboth Social Housing. So, as you have followed the news in the course of this week, starting with the May Day celebration, let's listen to the TUC's boss briefly.
The reason Ghana has had to seek IMF support almost every 3 years is largely due to the flaws in the way our economy has been managed based on the neoliberal free market ideology. We would like to reiterate our well-known position that the IMF program can never take us out of this crisis. Our history of engagements with the IMF provides ample evidence that and policies cannot change our economic circumstances. Another IMF program will only impose more economic burden on us. We have to change the situation ourselves as Ghanaians. We believe strongly that government can lead us out of this crisis. And the government can do so by cutting expenditure on non-essentials, including the need to stop spending our hard-earned revenue on a national cathedral.
Right, so that's a point that the Secretary General of the TUC repeated right before the president, whilst they were observing the May Day. And I was just asking myself how uncomfortable that should be for the president as he sits. And this man is repeating to the hearing of the president. He actually calls his attention again. Dr. Anthony Abba calls the president's attention again and says, stop spending our money on the National Cathedral, and suggests that, he said, he suggested that it should rather, be the money spent on it should rather be diverted into a national hospital. The project itself should be diverted into a national hospital. He said the president has always said he wants to create another Notre Dame in Ghana so we can attract a lot of visitors. But we disagree. In fact, comrades, it will be better to convert the project into a national hospital. How did you feel when you hear the leader of workers, labor, make such a statement in such an important, significant day, and he's saying it right before the president?
Well, first of all, thank you again for hosting us.
And I hope we can deal with this quite very briefly.
Quickly, yes.
Then we can move on to Okudjeto's artillery bombardments and your responses.
Right. First of all, I mean, projects of this nature always have this kind of criticisms, but I think it's important not to trivialize this because they raise concerns about what the country needs. We have real needs for recurrent expenditure on hospitals, education, and others. So it's important. But I think part of what is lost here, though, is that is exactly why we believe we need the National Cathedral. So I agree with him. We need all these issues. But the key issue facing Ghana and almost all African countries is how do you generate the wealth for the kind of recurrent expenditure? Because as you know, all African countries began as welfare states. We provided everything, and then everything collapsed because we did not generate the wealth. Because hospitals, schools are recurrent expenditure, populations increase. The key challenge for us as a country, in fact for a continent, is that how do we generate the wealth that would then be used on a sustained basis to address some of this recurrent expenditure we are always going to have. We are always going to need new hospitals, new schools, because the population. Our answer is that one-time investments like this, and we'll be going to it, with integrated elements that will allow us, beyond what the president says, a formal space for the nation, almost a symbol for the Christian presence here in this country and contributions, that we've also integrated the elements that will really turn Ghana into a religious hub. And the religious tourism has become such a major. If you look at the particular, one example is the United Arab Emirates. Until 20 years ago, it was not a site for religious tourism. The major site was Mecca. 2007,
But they're leveraging on what is natural to them, known to them. What is sort of their inheritance?
No, let me finish. 2007, they built the Grand Mosque at the cost of $545 million. At the moment, that is the second most visited religious site in the Middle East. 2007, before that, there was nothing there. Just 2020, there was $6.6 million visitors visiting there. Just in February, there was a new Abrahamic Center designed by Sir David Ajay that has been just inaugurated. I was talking to the director there, and what they are planning to do is literally to say, look, he says, we are going to use this to turn Abu Dhabi into the global convening space for interreligious tolerance. Because these are the ways in which you develop the basis to generate the resources. So yes, I mean, I have no problem with ATC.
All right.
But the key issue for him, for me, for the opposition, for the ruling government, for you, is almost a generational question.
Okay, thank you.
How do we generate the resources?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Sule, we take it that Dr. Yauba was speaking for all workers because that's who he represents. Was he speaking for you as well? Hello, Sule. Yeah, quickly.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. He was. And I think when he talked about the government cutting expenditure on non-essentials and cites the National Cathedral, certainly he was right. Look, right from the idea moment, there were controversies about this particular project. The location of it generated a lot of controversy. The pulling down of structures belonging to public structure, private structures, generated its own controversy. The funding, we were initially told, well, government is not going to put money into it. It will be financed by the Christian community or other people. Eventually, we know that almost every money that has gone into it has come from public funding. The choice of an architect for the project, there were controversies about whether we couldn't have had, a pool of local consultants doing it. Then contracts, there are controversies about which contracts have been awarded to who, and Honorable Okujeto has revealed quite a lot about that. Then recently, I think it was Isu Anaba and another member of the board who talked about so much is being pumped into it in terms of money and little progress is being seen, and therefore they called for audit. We've had resignations on the part of board members. We've had a demand for the audit, as I said. Now we are told there is this US incorporation and all the matters that are coming up. And, you know, when the CEO talks about Abu Dhabi and so on, I think what he fails to add is that they were not doing that at a time when people were struggling to get medical attention. I believe most of our politicians, when they are even sick, that's where they go. They go to the UAE. So, and they were not doing it at a time when, you know, children across the country were not having desks to sit on. And children in our country continue to lie on their bellies to be able to write. I don't think that Abu Dhabi was doing that at that time. I don't think Abu Dhabi is doing this Abrahamic project that he's talking about at the time they are seeking an IMF bailout with imposition of several conditions of difficulties on the people. So we are talking about the realities of our situation.
Okay.
We know that people go to, you know, Dubai and other things for tourism and so on and so forth. They build their country. If we were at a stage where, you know, the state itself can finance this without all these basic problems that I'm talking about, I believe that even if people would have expressed concerns, the concerns would have been minimal.
All right. Okay.
And just finally, look, I believe if President Akufo-Addo from the onset had said, look, I think God has been gracious to Ghana. We have a situation where our mothers continue to die, children continue to die, and within my tenure, I want to build something that even if it will be known as the Akufo-Addo Memorial Hospital for Maternal Care, it is something that I believe even if people would have raised concerns, they would realize that, look, this is going to benefit all of us. But at a time when we are in crisis, at a time the economy is struggling, then we are talking about building a national cathedral because it will pull in people and so on.
Okay, but it must be noted that the cathedral idea and its commencement predates the twin problems of Russia, Ukraine, and COVID that we are now told are the only reasons why we are in this economic mess. Yeah, so briefly about that before we go to what you have brought from the US and their reactions.
I must certainly salute Comrade Yaba for those very bold, courageous, inspiring remarks at the Labor Day celebration, and he did it right in front of the president. That's the kind of speaking truth to authority that we have been waiting for many, many years. And I join millions of Ghanaians in saluting, commending, and celebrating the leader of organized labor for those very poignant and really forthright words.
He was actually applauded when he said that.
Yes, I mean, there was groundswell of support. And few minutes after that, everybody took a clip of what he said, and it went viral. I mean, I received it from all over Ghanaians abroad. I was surprised, even people in the diplomatic community. Everybody was circulating it. It just tells you how that message resonated with everybody. Look, I have here the contract that was presented to us in Parliament. $383.4 million without several exclusions is the cost of this project. We have done the analysis. If you add all these exclusions, the professional fees, the extension time claims, the finance charges of paid amounts, the standing time claims to main contract, abortive and rework costs, the museum displays and fit out. Many people don't know that the figures out there. You have here in the contract, the museum displays and the fit outs have been excluded. If you add all of that together with the cost of compensation, remember that some of the victims of the demolished properties are in court, demanding judgment debt. The Chief Justice wants to replace the Judicial Training Institute. There are several facilities that have not been replaced, like the Malian ambassador's residence that was demolished. The analysis we have done is that it will cost us, when all of this is said and done, about $1 billion. And put that figure in context. Take, for example, the Pongwater project, one of my favorite projects, which costs us $240 million. It provides 40 million gallons of water to 700,000 Ghanaians on a daily basis. So when we hear people like Yalban, they are looking at the opportunity costs, the comparative analysis, what could have been done. We celebrate UGMC, our first quaternary hospital. It was just $217 million. That's just about a quarter of what we are going to spend, potentially, if this project is to continue. Terminal 3 was just about $220 million. Look, there are very few projects in our entire history that have cost this much. So we are talking about the biggest investment. When I hear...
He also mentions the potential of what we can get from that.
When I hear Dr. Polopoku mention, again, I say that the conceptualization is flawed. If we are looking at wealth generation, I would rather go for our history, see the impact the year of return is making. I was just speaking at Harvard a few weeks ago, and everybody was talking about the impact of the year of return. And it's one of the things I've commended the president for, that renewed spirit. There has been Panafest and all of that, but let's face it, the year of return rebranding has been one of the positives of President Akufo-Addo. You have to give him that credit. True. I would rather have said, let's leverage on that. There's more potential there. Look, this is a country that has somebody who is believed to be the greatest African to have ever lived, Kwame Nkrumah. When people come here, a lot of this, recently there was a congressional delegation. I felt quite embarrassed taking them through what we have to show of Kwame Nkrumah.
But the memorial place has been...
No, it's not. It's
no, that's now a very beautiful place.
But you see, you link it to Nkrofo, his birthplace, where people want to see. Look at the state of our forts and castles. I took my family to the Elmina Castle not too long ago, and I was not impressed. There's so much we can do. These are UNESCO heritage sites. I would rather have said, look, you can take 10% of that $1 billion and restore and invest in these forts and castles, the icons we have, like Kwame Nkrumah, leveraging on the year of return. And I bet you we will make far more money than some of the financial projections, which really, I look at those numbers and I think that it's flawed, it's so ambitious. Look, they are now even researching on whether people really will be interested and the place of Africa in the Bible and all of that. When you have Israel to compete with, are we sure that people, are going to leave Jerusalem and come to Accra if they want to embark on a Christian pilgrimage? All those countries you mentioned, UAE, there are footprints of the Prophet Muhammad in all of those jurisdictions.
That's what I was trying to mention to him.
So there's something they are leveraging on, and I think that we have better to leverage on.
Okay, thank you. So now, let's start with you. You are the man who's been to the US. And did you leave or you came to meet the victory? The contempt proceedings against you.
Oh, yes.
That you have won.
No, I came to meet it. I came to meet it. And let me thank all of you, the good people of Ghana. There was tremendous support. Many people thought that...
But it's important. You are the best of legal hands in court. You don't... I've read the legal submissions of your lawyer. And it doesn't get any better than that. All right. Anyway, so you have some 10,000 cedis.
We'll donate to charity.
Oh, charity.
Yes.
This desk is... All right. Now, so tell us, you come back and you start this serialization. Now people are saying you should be giving the Journalist of the Year because you are more a journalist. And they have issues. For example, Doc mentions the fact that if you want there to be questions, and some probing, it should happen in a proper place in the House of Parliament, not the manner in which you are doing it, talking about illegal activities of the Secretariat. You are talking about some fraudulent office addresses in the US and so on. What exactly is the problem?
So let me quickly address those concerns about my modus operandi and my methodology. First of all, as a member of Parliament, your constitutional mandate really is to carry out oversight. Many people forget that, and when they say, oh, he's acting like a journalist, I get the impression that they haven't really averted their mind. Because, you see, the whole principle of checks and balances, this Montesquieu doctrine, is to allow for members of Parliament, one arm, to be checking the other. so that, as Lord Acton said, absolute power will corrupt and will corrupt absolutely. So there always has to be countervailing forces, and that is why we have members of parliament. So I'm simply carrying out my mandate. And it is not trying to, the last time I heard one of the deputy ministers of information say that I appear to want to become a movie star and I'm on a popularity contest and all of that. Not at all. You're only doing your work. And you see, you must recognize that we are in a new age. Previously, you have members of parliament who would then probably write out a feature article in, say, the Daily Graphic, or will give it to multimedia. This time, you have social media. You can control the narrative. You can put out the evidence for everybody to see. It is also not accurate to suggest that I only have been active out of the chamber or on social media. Most of these issues I raise on social media. Often I raise them in parliament first. Check the parliamentary records. Throughout the debates, even on approval of budgets and all of that, I have raised these matters on the floor. So as we speak, there is a pending motion that I have sponsored, admitted by the Speaker, calling for a probe. We were just out of time, and so we couldn't have the debate, because after the Speaker admits, the second stage is to have the debate, then the third stage is to have the committee set up. So we are waiting for those two stages. And it's in my name. So for people, a parliamentary inquiry into these National Cathedral scandals.
But I needed this small thing about, if you are doing parliamentary oversight as your job, who is funding that? We see you, presidential appointment to the president's office. You have been on that. How the president has been flying, the jets. All of these things that you follow. Who is paying for it? Is it being paid for by parliament if it's parliamentary oversight?
I really think that you have to be passionate about your job. Already we are paid by the taxpayer through parliament. And so I take it that, look, sacrifice a little bit, use your salaries, because you are being paid. You are paid to work. So I just use my salaries, get a plane ticket, and take care of. So I don't have funding from any external, but let me clarify that. Sometimes people even want to throw in conspiracy theories that probably has he gone to align with some anti-Christian group and are they then sponsoring him and all of that? No, not at all. Okay. I wouldn't even entertain that at all. I still maintain that, look, Christianity is a force for good in the world. That's only
in
where we can get salvation. And we must
in the revelations that you have been making since your return from the US over this matter, point us to 3 of what is most significant for you.
Okay, so let me reveal that I'll be doing 7 episodes. I'm only at 3. So probably get into middle of these episodes. What I've put out so far, the 3 significant ones are: 1, the articles of incorporation. We had not known, it's never been disclosed to us, that apparently we have some private actors. And the way the incorporation was done, it did not...
Incorporation of a foundation.
Yes, the Ghana, the National Cathedral of Ghana and Bible Museum Foundation.
In the U.S.
Incorporated in the U.S. So we have Dr. Vernon Darko. The first time I was seeing that name associated with the National Cathedral. Then we have Eric Ochre Darko. Then we have Dr. Paul Opoku Mensah. Now, interestingly, that whole arrangement is at variance to the advice of the Attorney General. If you read the January 6, 2022 advice of the Attorney General, that arrangement, which is a private arrangement, where they are collecting funds, when you read the purpose of the incorporation, is to go around and raise funds for a national project. And I was shocked that I didn't see the ambassador. We have 2 diplomats, head of missions, the ambassador based in Washington, D.C., and the permanent rep based in New York. None of the addresses used. So that to me was really startling. Then the second major issue are the really fictitious addresses. Let me just be frank. So on the National Cathedral of Ghana website, they always have advertised, and viewers can go check it out, that they have an office in the United States of America. The address is 1090 Vermont Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C., zip code 20005. So I go to that address. I have here in my hands the the complimentary card of the property manager. The property managers are Capital Concierge. I asked them, is National Cathedral of Ghana here? They said no. Are any of their agents here? If I want to deliver a letter or just deliver some communication, they tell me that no. They took me through the entire, it's a 12-floor apartment, the entire list. And they say that, look, they are not here. And I said, what's going on here? I showed them the address, and they said, you see, when you look at the address carefully on the website, it doesn't give you a suite number or an office number. It's just the building. So they told me that clearly you can see that, the people are not being, transparent with you guys. So go back home and find out really what's going on. I left there and decided to check on the consultant to the USA. Now, on the website of the National Cathedral, a gentleman named Carrie Summers, I found out now when I obtained his full profile from official sources that he's Carrie Lee Summers. And why it is important that I pursued Carrie Lee Summers is that if you go to the breakdown of the 339 million spent so far, which has produced the world's most expensive hole, a place that looks like a Galamsey site, nothing to show, for $58.1 million of expenditure. You look at the breakdown, and Carrie Lee Summers' group, the Nehemiah Group, and BMOA have received 28.2 million Ghana cedis. It's here. They gave us this document, Dr. Poku.
As what?
Here. As consultancy services. That's what Parliament was told. So this colossal amount of money going to somebody in the United States of America, a member of Parliament, you don't just, accept it hook, line, and sinker. You want to do some due diligence. So I decided to pursue the address which we were given in Parliament, which is on the website of the National Cathedral, 3119 A Cynic South, Springfield, Missouri. Zip code 65807. I arrive at the location, and to my shock, I don't see any Nehemiah Group. What I saw was quite a ramshackle, I must be honest, quite a rundown warehouse with the signage, the Churchill Coffee Company. That's all I saw. Churchill Coffee Company, wholesale division. There was no Nehemiah Group. Meanwhile, when you go on the National Cathedral website, there is a link with all kinds of images, glossy pictures and all of that about the Nehemiah Group. I don't see that. So this clearly raises due diligence concerns. Remember that in this country, we were once given an address for a major loan, CNTCI loan. That took us to a hairdressing salon. So we have become very wary in Parliament. You don't just accept addresses like that.
But you said you met the gentleman.
Yes. Whilst
that address.
Yes, we met him. So clearly, nobody can say that I went to the wrong address, because since I returned, even yesterday on the show, Nana Komia was asking me if I'm sure I went to the right address, and I think that it's good fortune that Carrie Summers showed up. Let me give you the third concern. Third concern, so that doctor can come in. Now, the third concern is what I put out this morning. I have also obtained, and this was unknown to us, registration documents of federal operations in 2 additional states in the United States of America, Illinois and Oklahoma. They've never told us that. It's not on their website. And what is shocking is that all the claims that had been made earlier when their responses to my exposés, you remember Dr. Poku Mensah said that, the Washington incorporation preceded the Attorney General's advice. I will agree. The Attorney General's advice came January 6, 2022. They incorporated in May of 2021 in Washington, D.C. However, after the Attorney General's advice, on the 2nd of September, they defied the Attorney General's advice and went to register in Illinois and did the same thing. This time, making Dr. Vernon Darko the president, Eric Ochidako secretary, and Dr. Poku Mensah director. Then the Oklahoma incorporation, a copy of which I have here. By the way, you are a lawyer, I know you are particular about these things. I have certificates from the state secretaries certifying that all the documents I have obtained are true certified copies from the Secretary of Washington, D.C., the Oklahoma Secretary of State, and then the Secretary of State for Illinois, so that none of the documents I'm presenting are my own creations. You see the Oklahoma document, which was also filed on the 12th of December 2022. So several months after the Attorney General had advised that, look, this is a national project now. Things must be national. And I expected that from that period, you bring in the Board of Trustees in Ghana. They should be represented. After all, they all have churches in the United States of America. You make sure the ambassador in the U.S. is represented. All of these addresses that you are striking in Oklahoma, they use the address of the warehouse as the address for the National Cathedral. Conflicting. So it's just a mess. And one wonders why the Attorney General's advice was so violated. After January 6, 2022, in September of that year, you go to Illinois, do something at variance with that advice. Then in December of 2022, you go to Oklahoma and do something different. Let me also indicate that thanks to Oklahoma law, the Oklahoma Solicitation of Charitable Contributions Act, they were compelled to reveal how much they raised the previous year, which is $63,978. Something they have never told us. It's never accounted for us in Parliament. So all of these fundraisings going on by these private individuals, receiving all of these monies, we know that this is for just Oklahoma in 2021. What has happened in Illinois? Okay. How much has been raised in Washington, D.C. and all the other states?
Yeah. Don't worry. He's speaking, okay. And 10 minutes now. You have equal time to talk.
That's right. He started 33.
You have equal time to talk.
He can come in.
Almost to 80 minutes.
You come in. You come.
He said he started
33.
33. Looking at which clock? No, I'm not looking at that. Go ahead. But he was not.
Okay, thank you very much.
Come in. Yeah.
Thank you. But let me start with a concern. I think the last time I was here, we talked about the fact that, and I've repeated this, that issues of accountability are so critical, not just for the National Cathedral project, even for myself. I remember Ukujato and I had a conversation, a telephone conversation, and I told him that, look, if it is accountability you are after, that's what I also want. And actually told him that beyond the National Cathedral, my whole professional life has been on political accountability. In fact, even going to the extent of sending him an article on civil society, democratization.
Very brilliant.
2003, that I had written with a colleague, the immediate past Vice Chancellor of it, who's now heading the University of London, SOAS, told him, like, look, the first global survey of the civil society and globalization, democratization, I wrote the African chapter. I was commissioned not because I was just an academic, because I was part of the Pan-African discussions on civil society, political accountability in Africa. I told him 2007 I was in Ghana. At the time I was research director for Center for Comparative Regional Integration Studies at the University of Aalborg in Denmark. I was in Ghana to help develop the concept for the West African Center for the African Peer Review Mechanism. I was not saying this to tell him that, look, these are my credentials. All I was trying to tell him was that issues of political accountability is really something I care deeply about.
Okay.
I made only one request in that conversation, only one, that in his quest for accountability, I could be an ally because I want the National Cathedral to be addressed, to be really implemented with accountability. The only thing I ask is that before he rushes to accuse, he should verify information. That was the only request I made of him. I'm not saying don't go out accusing, but that's critical to accountability is verification. That some of the issues that you rush to almost frame as scandals are really not scandals if you actually ask for clarification.
Okay,
so,
let's begin.
Introduction. So let me go. The first one he talks about is the whole incorporation. One, part of my role is fundraising for the National Cathedral. And we have a fundraising strategy that has been approved by the board. That also includes fundraising outside the country. When you go to a country to do fundraising, you realize that you are not allowed to come to do fundraising until you are incorporated, registered. And so the registered foundation is not an office, a branch office of the National Cathedral of Ghana. It's a special purpose vehicle for fundraising. It has nothing, it has everything to do with my role as the fundraiser. And knowing that in the US context, the only way you can actually go and do fundraising is to register. Two, the board had approved this consultant you're talking about,
Karisamis,
as a consultant. In fact, I first met him in 2018 during, just about 2 months after I had taken this job. I knew of the Bible Museum because I was on the board of one of the organizations, SI International, that was working on the museum. So I wanted, as part of things, look, we should integrate something that allows us integration of the Bible Museum. So we went to the museum, February, but I remember it was 12 February 2018. Actually, the first one, I went with the ambassador, Baua. When we went there, I mean, the scope of the museum, almost over 600 million museum, what attracted me to the museum was not just the, I mean, technologically immersive, the fourth largest, but the most visited museum. But that's not what attracted me. What I saw was the integration of business elements. A Bible museum with one of the theaters, banquet halls, conference rooms that are being used constantly. So I remember asking him, look, yeah, the museum is nice, but tell me a bit about your business development, because that is what I think this country needs. So the National Cathedral we're doing, we want to make sure that we have this business element. And he says, look, we are happy to share these things with you. So I decided, look, send some of the trustees there. I sent Revenue Tabel there in April 2018. I mean, when he saw it, he came back and says, look, we have to change this concept to make it the National Cathedral of Ghana and the Bible Museum of Africa. Because he says, look, this link could completely transform this project and the fortunes of this country.
This was Dr. Otabel's recommendation.
Right. In fact, when he came to the board meeting, the minister there. I later brought Archbishop Duncan Williams. In fact, he even wanted to, so he also went there. We went to his house. He met Karisamis. They were all fascinated because part of his role beyond the Bible Museum is that he is responsible for almost all the major religious theme parks, not only in the US. The Nazareth village, those who've gone to Israel, he built it, ran it. So what really has been central to his role is this integration of business elements. So he was the one, so I came and told the board that we need a consultant like this. So he came here, he made a presentation to them. They said, look, this is the person we need. When he came, he was responsible for the integration of this 350-seater restaurant, banquet hall, and so literally he changed, the whole design was changed. And then he says, look, we want you to
So you are justifying the, how much payment of
28.2
million. No.
8 million.
I mean, you see, once again, if he had asked the Secretariat, I mean, it's normally when you do this, it's almost like an audited report. They ask you to disaggregate.
The question he asked is, this what you have put in the document that you are spending on him.
Yeah. Right.
And you give his address.
He
goes to his address.
I think let me.
And he sees a warehouse.
I think let me. So the incorporation one, it is not a branch office of the National Cathedral of Ghana. It is a special purpose vehicle for fundraising. Two, he talked about the incorporation.
Which must be accountable. Because you are raising funds for the people of Ghana.
Two, he talks about the incorporation itself. Yeah. And he didn't raise it here. And the fact that we use kind of identity theft. This was what has been running.
Yes.
Once again, back to what I started off. If he had just called to say, this is what I have found, could you explain before I go out? First of all, one, and let me stress this, you do not, and let me repeat, you do not need a social security number to get a tax ID for a foundation. It's an incorporation certificate that is used. So he says with using somebody, a dead man's identity
Social
to get,
security number, yes.
you do not, once again, let me repeat here directly.
No, but you are contradicting your own statement.
You have acknowledged that you have very limited time. Please don't interject. Don't interject. Don't interject. Don't interject.
May 2nd statement.
He has less than how many minutes to finish?
So first, you do not need that.
You need it for an EIN.
No, you don't.
Don't reply him. Speak directly.
So, fictitious idea. Look, we are using one of the main, in fact, the leading law firms in the U.S. on non-profit practice. You can call him Beirute. He advised that normally, in fact, the idea was that do you set up an office? I said, look, we are here to raise money. Why do you set up an office and be paying rent? And so his office was our legal, and he says normally what we do in the US, because when you register anywhere, they require you to have an agent. And so normally what is done is that you have a holding address, and most of the letters get sent to the
holding address,
and then sent to the lawyer. So that is really almost an agreement between the lawyer and whoever is receiving the information. The key issue is that you do not. So that's the one.
Yeah.
And then the third one has to do with the Karisama so-called warehouse. First of all, I think it's really, you get almost worried about this attitude. Some of these people are rich because they are frugal. He has that warehouse, you can check again, Churchill Coffee, one of the largest coffee distribution, he has his office in there. Because most times the way these consultants work is that they have associates all over the world in the US. So you don't create an office. In fact, even when he was the president of the Bible Museum, he had his office in Washington, D.C., but he also had his consultancy offices in the same place. If you had gone inside the room, you'd have seen his offices, well laid out. But I think part of my worry, though, is this whole really, once again, this rush to create scandals where there is none. Really? I mean, this idea that we've registered and incorporated in other states, no. When you register, it's
contrary to the Attorney General's
Attorney General
advice.
never taught anything about fundraising.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, that what we have done there is an administrative response.
You were right. You are right about the time. Time is up.
So let me finish though. That the registration in the other states, it's almost like the bar. When you register in one state to raise money, you are not allowed to go to another state to register money. You have to incorporate. So in fact, we're actually incorporating in 33 states.
Okay.
But that is all administrative. It has nothing to do with policy. The policy already has been established that part of your role is international fundraising. And once again...
Which you said was interim, and that after the Attorney General's advice...
Okay.
Your own statement, your May...
Too bad, our time is up.
But really, what I'm trying to say is that the critical issue is that for a parliamentarian to keep rushing to almost accuse without verification.
I do.
I mean, I think it's really
maybe you should be putting a lot more of the information on your website.
They are all there. I mean, look. For instance, he says we've not filed any returns. This the return is on the IRS page. These are returns for 2021. It is public. There's nothing that is secret. This is it. I mean, this is it. You go to the IRS page, it is there. So this idea that somehow we are hiding information is not true. But all I'm saying, and I've said to him, I mean, look, we all want accountability. That is not the way accountability is exercised. There's an element of verification.
Do you admit that some of the issues he raises are concerning? And it takes him to raise before you...
No, but that's the point. Normally, if you saw something like this, the most logical thing is to say, look, Secretariat, this is what I have found. Send me a response.
All right.
And then before
my sincere apologies to Suleiman Abrahima. we are unable to return to you. And thank you so very much, Samuel Okujetua Blackwell and Dr. Paul Opoku Mensah. I think we need, to dedicate some time to go, bullet by bullet, some of these things, and for the education that you are also offering. My outfit is by Habil Scooter. You can contact them 0200 84 1988. I'm Samson Ladiayeni. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Yes. So.
MTN.
Everywhere you go.
Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner.
Where Duraplast goes, water flows.
Star Assurance, your solid partner.
Ghana's most useful app. Hubtel is everything you.
Visit the St. Thomas Eye Hospital and get advice on which treatment works best for you.
Fernard Ghana. Think wood. Think Fernard.